Portable CD players are becoming popular again, but it's been at least 30 years since I actually traveled with one. Shanling recently released this CD player and sent it to me right before I left for an Alaskan cruise. And I thought, why not take it along with me and see what it's like to travel with a brand new portable CD player in modern times and determine if it's as fun as using my old Discman from many years ago. But that's not all. This CD player is more than just a portable unit, as it can also be used in your home stereo system as a standalone CD player, as a standalone R2R DAC, and as a CD ripping device. But wait, there's more. It can also be played in multiple output modes, transistor, and with tubes. Hi there, my name is Aaron, and I've reviewed a lot of CD players recently here on YouTube from companies like SMSL, FIO, and more. But this is the first time I've taken a portable CD player like this on a long trip spanning over 7,000 miles by car, plane, train, and even ship. After using this CD player both on my long trip and at home, I discovered things I really like, as well as some things that I think can be improved on, especially at this surprising price point. Let me tell you all about my experience with the Shanling EC0T CD player and see if this is the right player for you. My family and I recently took a cruise from Nashville to Alaska, where we flew to Seattle to board our ship. While in Alaska, we stopped in Ketchikan for a hike in the forest, floated past a glacier on a raft in Juneau, and saw amazing views while riding a train in Skagway, where I found a long-lost Radio Shack, or at least a Radio Shack sign. My first impression when packing the EC0T for this trip was that it was a lot larger than my old Sony Discman. It's thicker and weighs a lot more too. The Sony is lightweight and made of plastic, while the Zero T feels more sturdy, being made of aluminum and tempered glass. It feels like a very nice device, so I was a little nervous just tossing this in my backpack like I would have done with the plastic Discman. Unfortunately, Shanling does not include any kind of carrying case for protection, so I decided to try and find one. The main issue here is that the square sizing of the Zero T, especially here at the front of the unit, makes it hard to find a carrying case that will fit. I tried buying this one off Amazon, but it's slightly too small and I can't zip it up completely. I ended up just using this bag that came with a Samsung microphone to slide into the unit. It didn't provide padding, but at least it would keep it from getting scratched up. Given the high price point of this player, I wish Shanling had included a custom fitted carrying case for when we want to take this player on the road. The larger sizing of this player definitely makes it stand out when in use. I used the Zero T during our flight and set it out on the tray, where I caught a couple people glancing over at it. I think the sizing and the see-through top make people stop and look much more than if I was using the Discman. In fact, when I was flying home from Seattle, airport security made me take this out of my backpack, and when the security personnel saw the Zero T, he immediately said, "Oh wow, is that a portable CD player? I haven't seen someone bring one of those to the airport in years." He was even more impressed when I told him it was actually a brand new CD player that had been recently released. Before discussing the Zero T's features as a portable player, we have to select the proper power source, which in this case is the battery. Unlike my vintage Discman, the Zero T doesn't use AA batteries, but instead a rechargeable battery via USB. I like the idea of modern devices not being wasteful by not using disposable batteries, but I do worry in the long run, will this rechargeable battery ever need to be replaced like I had to do last year on my vintage iPod? And if so, will replacing the rechargeable battery on this unit be easy or complicated? Is it something I can do on my own or not? I imagine this isn't something that will be an issue for a few years, but the question still came to mind. The Zero T offers a lot of interesting features, and to access those, you long press this button here on top. I do have a slight issue with this process. When you short press the menu button, the unit stops playing the CD and goes into USB DAC mode, something I will discuss more in depth later. When using it during my travels, I found myself accidentally short pressing this button during playback when wanting to access the menu, and the CD would stop playing, which was kind of annoying. Personally, I would prefer to long press the menu button to get into USB DAC mode and short press for menu options, because in reality, I think more people will want to access the menu options during CD playback more than use it as a standalone DAC, especially since this is a portable unit. One feature I really like is the lock switch on the side of the unit that, when engaged, defeats all of the other buttons on the unit, including volume. This makes sense because a sliding volume switch like this could easily be turned up too loud or too soft if the unit is flopping around in your bag or you are carrying the unit around. So whenever I started playing a CD, I selected all the appropriate menu features and set the volume, then engaged this switch to make sure nothing changed by accidentally pressing a button. I did have trouble reading the display when using it outside on a sunny day. When wearing my sunglasses, I couldn't read the display at all. You can adjust the brightness in the menu options, but even maxed out, I still had trouble seeing the information displayed when using it outside on the cruise ship. For headphone connectivity, the Zero T provides three options: 3.5mm and 4.4mm wired options here on the front, and the ability to stream to Bluetooth headphones. During my trip, I packed my small IEMs for all of my listening, but also used regular headphones here at home while using, and all of them were powered fine. Because this player is unique in that it uses an R2R DAC design, and it has the ability to switch between a regular and tube sound mode, as well as oversampling and non-oversampling mode, I am going to go into more detail in a few minutes about how the unit sounds overall, but note that the tube option is not available when using Bluetooth headphones. It's worth noting that I did not have any issues with gapless playback while using the CD player, and CD playback never skipped during use while I was traveling. I moved this player around a lot to try and make it skip, but it never did. Overall, this player was fun to use while traveling, even if it is a little bulky. Due to size and price, I decided to use it only on the plane and cruise ship and did not take it on any of our excursions into Alaska, but also this was a once-in-a-lifetime family trip that I didn't want to ruin by bringing along a CD player to test for my YouTube channel while rafting to a hike in a rainforest to see banana slugs. Now, before I talk about how the Zero T performs at home in a regular stereo setup, it's worth pointing out that you can actually use this unit not only as a CD player, but just as a standalone USB R2R DAC that supports both PCM and DSD. This is impressive because R2R DACs, until recently, were rather expensive, which I know because I paid over $700 for this used Dinner Frips Aries 2 DAC, which is my daily driver. FIO blew all our minds last year by releasing their K11 R2R DAC that's under $200, a great performer that surprised all of us who are used to spending big money on R2R design DACs. R2R DACs use a ladder design made up of resistors rather than a dedicated chip like a Delta Sigma DAC. That's right, in all my other CD player videos, I would stop here and tell you what chip is being used, something like an ESS or Cirrus Logic, but not with the Zero T, which instead uses 192 resistors rather than 1 or 2 DAC chips. Now, in order to avoid repeating myself, I will explain a little bit more about how this DAC impacts sound in a few minutes, but for now, just know that I was surprised to see Shanling add this extra feature to a CD player like the EC0T. One more quick note, the new feature we're starting to see with a lot of CD players and transports today is the ability to rip CDs. And the Zero T is another model that can handle this process by ripping directly to a thumb drive. Shanling has a video showing how to do this by both ripping an entire album or even just a specific track. Ripping takes place at the same time that the CD is being played. We have just one more feature set to talk about with this little player, and that's what it's like using the Zero T at home as a standalone player. This is where we need to look at the rear of the unit and first change the power switch from battery to external DC. Shanling does not provide a wall brick, only a USB cable, but I was able to buy this one on Amazon. It's important to note that Shanling suggests using a DC 5V 2 amp adapter, as anything higher could damage the unit. We can now see three options to connect our CD player. The first being a 4.4mm balance line out, then a 3.5mm line out, and finally a 3.5mm SPDIF coax optical digital out. I simply used a 3.5mm to RCA cable to connect the player to my receiver, but keep in mind each of these units will require additional cables or adapter to make the proper connection. Also, remember that if you use the digital output on this unit and connect it to an external DAC or on the digital input on your preamp or amplifier, you will no longer be using the R2R DAC within the 0T. Volume can still be controlled on the front of the unit when connected to your system, so be sure it's turned up when you first press play. I set mine at a comfortable level on the player and then adjusted the volume on my receiver. Overall, I found the 0T to be very easy to use as a home player and didn't have any issues setting up or playing CDs. Overall, I enjoyed the sound of the unit when using it as a portable player. I've never listened to a portable device using an R2R DAC before, and since I love those DACs enough to now own two, the Aries 2 and the FIO K11 R2R, I felt the sound of the 0T carried a lot of the similar sound characteristics of those DACs, which means it has an organic sound with great sound staging. It comes across as a little warm, making a sometimes harsh sounding CD easier to listen to. Chip-based Delta Sigma DACs often provide a more analytical neutral sound, but the 0T will be more mellow and laid back in a good way. This sound signature is also applicable when I use the unit in USB DAC mode and connected it to my laptop. Some of you will want to know if this unit really sounds that much better than my vintage Sony Discman. Well, I can only say yes because the Discman stopped working a while ago, and I'm pretty sure the laser is dead, which isn't surprising given its age. When listening to CDs, it's important to keep in mind that both as a portable player and in the desktop mode, we actually have 4 options of sound signatures. First, we have a non-oversampling mode, or NOS. We also have an oversampling mode, or OS. We have a transistor output, which is labeled as tube off, or we have the ability to switch tubes on and listen with tubes. Personally, I didn't hear too much of a difference when changing between NOS and OS, or non-oversampling or oversampling mode, and honestly, that is common for whenever I listen to CD players or DACs that offer this option. So I always kept the player in NOS mode. There is a noticeable difference in sound when turning the tube mode off and on, but mostly only when listening via headphones and not so much when listening as a home player. When listening on headphones, there is a slight drop in volume when changing from transistor to tube mode, which makes things obviously sound a little softer, but also a little looser. Transistor mode is more punchy and detailed, as one would expect. When listening in my regular stereo system, again, the sound change between the two modes is a lot less noticeable, and I found myself being able to pick out a few minor differences, but mostly in detail retrieval and placement of instruments, with the transistor mode being more spot on than the looser tube mode. I worry some people might not hear that drastic of a difference when using it as a home player, but it's always hard to say if the unit will perform the same way on your preamp or amplifier setup like it did here with my vintage Marantz. So what is your opinion about all of these features crammed into one little CD player? Before you answer that question, let me inform you that the listed price of this unit is $649, even though sales are often run and you can probably buy it cheaper. Now, I know that price is going to trigger a lot of you, so please enjoy these peaceful Alaskan waves as a moment of zen while you process this information. Feel better? I hope so. Now, I love reading the comments on my videos, well, most of them, and a lot of people commented recently on a video about another CD player I reviewed that had a lot of similar features, that they don't like buying products with this many features packed into one unit. They would rather just buy the unit to do the one job, so in this instance, just play CDs. To them, if they buy a unit with too many features, that just means there's that many more things that could go wrong and eventually need to be repaired. I do think worrying about replacing the battery and tubes down the road on the 0T is a valid concern here. I wouldn't be opposed to having to replace them myself if it was easy to do, but I don't think that will be the case with the 0T. Personally, I enjoyed using the 0T and was impressed with how many things it can do at this price point, but let's be honest, I didn't spend $650 on this unit, so that's kind of easy for me to say. But I was glad to find that the unit worked properly in all its aspects, given the price point, even if there are a few minor things I would update with the menu settings, the display brightness, and other similar items. But I do want the pricing keyboard warriors to keep a few things in mind before they post that comment. First, we are getting an R2R DAC inside of a CD player that can be used in multiple ways: portable, at home, and as a standalone USB DAC. And Shanling gives you so many sound signature options, including adding in tubes, that you can tailor it pretty easily to whatever you think sounds best. Because of this, we can't really expect this unit to cost the same as a FiiO DM13, another popular portable player that I reviewed. If you wanted the same DAC performance with the DM13, you would have to spend another $150 and buy FiiO's K11 R2R DAC, which isn't portable, so it's not even a proper comparison. But if after watching this video, you're interested in learning more about the FiiO DM13 portable CD player, you can do so by watching my video review of it here.